All right, so we're going to talk a little bit as a family around the table, and we're all sort of enjoying the evening. But we want to talk a little bit about what we did here in Italy. And so we have to start in Assisi because Assisi was, for me at least, the main point of the trip. Everything else was icing on the cake. So I'm going to just kind of start off around the table. You can answer when you want to. But when you think about our time in Assisi, what what do you think impacted you the most?
You want to take it first? No worries, I'm crying. I am not going to get out of this without crying.
Crying's
Fun. Wow, crying's expected. I mean, sorry, top yet. Well, let's start with you. Let's get it out. Grab the Kleenex. Believe in myself. What's that me the most? Two things.
okay.
Um, well, I love San Damiano. Um, that was probably my favorite uh church that we went to. It was very simple. The simplicity was still there. I loved being able to stand and put myself in the same places that they were in, St. Clare and the order and even St. Francis, and just imagine, walking the same steps, feeling the same walls. Obviously it was amazing to share the time singing with you guys. And the other, I know Bug's not in here because they would not like to be on the interwebs, but getting to share that be just beautiful experience with my oldest was just it was such a gift. I really appreciate.
Well, I kind of understand where you're at because I got to share it with my oldest too. So
What are y'all different right now? I get this from there. Also, what does it say about the middle child?
the middle child is always ignored.
Yes. I didn't share it with my oldest child. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you did. Zach is here.
Love you, Zack. I'm sorry. Already forgotten the question. These are trying to. I had thought.
What impacted you the most from Assisi?
Okay. I would say San Damiano as well. Um, I think for me, it is the beginning and the end um, of a full scale journey um, for St. Francis. And I too enjoy it. It's primitive, honestly. Like the simplicity is very primitive. And when you see other, churches or basilicas they're so ornate. I love that word. Um, half for years. But this one is very primitive in its simplicity, and I think I identify with that as a person a lot more anyway. I'm not flashy. I'm very simple. Um I loved the chapel there, how small it was, how intimate it was, how it was not built for grandeur. It was built for intimacy. Mhm. And that that spoke volumes to me.
Well, I'll be the third. So the San Damiano was impacted me probably the most, and just to know that that's where Saint Francis got his calling from. Somewhere small like that. That's all it takes for the presence of God just to be somewhere small like that. So all these huge cathedrals or uh, basilicas. So and another thing, just to see your expressions, in your story, and through your tears while you explain to us, like, I was like, I would like to do that one day with my kids. So
Yeah, I think for me, it's been twofold. It's been San Damiano because, like you said, it is so simple and um, really indicative of how the entire life of Francis was spent. He was not, we talked about, what would he think about the Basilica of St. Francis? I think he'd hate it. um, but also, there is a special thing for me with the Portico Chapel because to understand that's where he lived his life, and as he traveled out to do things, he would come back there, and that's where he wound up spending his final hours and dying there. I think those two things, and again, so simple. I mean, there might be room in there for 10 people, maybe. Yeah. I love the artwork in the upper chapel of the Basilica of St. Francis that tells the story of St. Francis. Uh, that kind of art in the church, I think, is important. It's important to me. And the cross of San Damiano in the Basilica of St. Clare. Now, as I mentioned before, we had tons and tons and tons of people there. And the times that I've been here before, it's been empty.
Yeah.
And so we really missed out on one of the key elements of what I wanted to happen, which was just to sit in the silence and soak it in. And we couldn't really do that very well. But still, I think that I think that it was well worth the trip.
I agree. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about food in Assisi. I think we all agreed on what our favorite meal was. So tell me what you had, if you remember.
the first night we were there, our hotel had the roasted chicken and the rice and the roasted potatoes. Oh my gosh, it was delicious. It was the best chicken I think I've ever had. So in Assisi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I ate a whole entire pizza by myself.
You did.
That was incredible. That was like a medium-sized pizza from Domino's,
Yeah.
which we all ordered.
And everywhere we went, they were like, "No, it's just for one person." We're like, "No, it's not."
Yeah. Okay, what did I have? I had the lamb chops.
Oh, yes, you did.
Yes, I did. I don't know what else was there because I ate the meat. Oh, eat, girl.
You shared the video that had sweet potatoes.
Thank you. There was sweet
Potatoes, because that was what stood out to Bug, because that's what Bug had as well.
Well, but
And honestly,
tell you the rest of my vegetables that I wouldn't eat because they're better than I am.
which I was very impressed with this. I had a roasted duck, which I don't know that I've ever had before, and I decided to treat myself because it was on the specials menu, and I was like,
Yeah, I had a bite of it. It was really good.
Italy feast dish at a fancy restaurant, and it had like with the compote. Listen, about cool. That's it. We're in the spree, and they like put it in like fanciful little things on the plate. It was astounding. I don't remember what else was underneath.
Yeah.
So because it was all
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I had cacio e pepe.
You did.
I feel
Because I couldn't wait to get my teeth into it. Man, it was amazing. It was really amazing. So for those watching, we stayed at the hotel, the Giotto Hotel and Spa, which is what, 5 or 6 minutes from the Basilica of St. Francis, and it was really close. Yeah. Worst bed I've ever slept in, but the hotel was really, really good.
It was a big. So was there like part of that was the experience of where we were eating too. Like you're down in like a cellar and it's like 100 years old. Bricks surround you and the ambiance and it was spectacular.
Well, it was really nice in the afternoon to go out on the terrace and just,
The best view.
have your cocktail in the afternoon and look out over the valley. And oh man, yeah, that view is the reason I booked the hotel.
And I was unable because that view was very refreshing.
All right, so we made a trip to Rome on Wednesday, and it was an okay trip. Was it Sunday that the rain hit? The hail came the first. Yeah. So we got off the plane on Sunday, and we had quite a long wait before the train to Assisi, and it started just pouring down rain out of nowhere. And the next thing we know, it's hailing like crazy. And I saw clips online. I mean, it flooded it flooded the airport.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah, it was a mess at the airport.
Oh wow.
So I was really glad we were out of there. The train ride's about 2.5 hours, with a lot of stops. There was no direct train when we were going, no nonstop train. So we got here to the apartment and we rented a VRBO just behind the Pantheon. So give me your impressions of the apartment.
This place is amazing. It's like a maze, though.
It is like a maze. A very small corridor maze.
Yes. They use this, every inch of the space is used for it. It has 4 bathrooms.
It does.
I'm very impressed with that.
Well, 3.5.
3.5.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it used to be probably 2 separate apartments. I think this was
Okay, and
That's surprisable. Yeah.
and that was another 2-bedroom apartment. I think, especially because Zach and I booked it was an Airbnb, but we booked an Airbnb a few years ago, a 1-bedroom, and it's kind of the same. Like this part of the residence is about the same size. Everything is very small, very compact, but used wisely. I think the location is great.
No.
Yeah, the location's amazing. Yeah.
Yes.
If I open my window outside of the ceilings are all super high.
Yeah.
In our bedroom, if you open the window, you can lean out and see the Pantheon just like right there. Like it goes like I can touch it. It's astounding.
We have a lovely terrace that we all used this evening. It was nice to be able to sit out there as a family. And
We also had the view out of our front window of St. Peter's Basilica.
that is true.
I mean, this is probably, out of all the places we've stayed overseas in Europe, like, I think this is the biggest place I've ever stayed at. That is true. And the most comfortablest bed. I give this place like a 9.5.
Nice. They just need a new coffee maker.
Well,
Yes.
shall we discuss the showers the size of a human being?
Like that sounds like that's impressive.
I mean, I guess that's all they need. But it's like this is the shower.
Yeah, and I'll just put it on here on the video. So I measured my shower. I have a bathroom just off the kitchen that's sort of out in the middle of nowhere. And the shower is 18 inches by 24 inches. Now, if you want to get a tape measure and put that on the floor and try to stand,
I think they're all the same size. I don't think
they probably are. Yeah, and it's obviously it's been added later, and everything in Europe is smaller. It's not like an American hotel or apartment by any means. Now, you mentioned the fact that you ran out of hot water. Of course, I'm getting in the shower at 6:00. I got plenty of hot water. But I'm not in there very long because you can't move.
If you do, move your tone water off.
Congratulations.
So yeah, so and I will start with this. So I think the thing that I looked forward to the most that actually happened, one of the things I looked forward to the most didn't happen. But for me, what I was looking forward to the most that happened was finally being able to see the Caravaggios of St. Matthew. I've been wanting to see them for so long. In fact, I almost walked back over there this afternoon, but I talked myself out of it because I was too tired.
I shouldn't have.
But those paintings are just amazing. And it reminds me, not to get too spiritual here, but it reminds me that even the most destitute of men can be used of God to make something extraordinary. Caravaggio was a murderer who had to escape for his life to another part of Italy so he wouldn't go to jail. He was a womanizer and he was all kinds of other things. But man, that guy could paint.
And captures light beautifully.
So if you think about one thing that we've seen while we've been in Rome, just one thing that really, it was something you were looking forward to before you came, what would that be?
Oh, I'll go. For me, I mean, I don't know the name of it, but do we go in St. Peter's, Michelangelo?
The Pietà.
Yes, that. I mean, even though I've seen it before, like just the
Oh, yeah.
video of it, like
Yeah.
how a man actually sculpted that from a marble stone. And it looks just so real, so polished. I mean, so sleek. Like,
At 23.
yeah, all the muscles, the ribs. Like, I was looking very forward to seeing that again. So that's the first thing that pops.
Yeah, I mean, out of all the stuff in St. Peter's,
Yeah.
I could stand there and not see anything else. It's just gorgeous. Yeah.
That's the one.
It's a masterpiece in St. Tears, in my opinion.
Besides, I mean, and all the mosaic in there. I mean, it's all mosaic. So it's just, that's a lot of work. Look, just little bitty pieces, one at a time, to create a masterpiece that you'd stand back and look at and think that someone actually painted that on the wall, but it's actually pieces of stone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so besides the food, the scene, that was
The food is allowed.
the checklist. It was the gelato. It was the tiramisu. It was the pasta. It was the pizza, cheesecake, wine. I got all of my trip boxes
Okay,
for
good,
food.
good.
Had been checked.
Okay.
And then I found one that I didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
So for story, she didn't even check.
Yeah.
Meritozzo?
Yes.
Meritozzo?
Meritozzo. Yeah. That's the American Italian.
This is I try. I had my dress.
That thing is absolutely heaven on earth.
I'd probably say for me, it's Trevi. Fontana di Trevi. I know the first time Zack and I came here, I cried. I'll cry again. Because that's what.
It is beautiful.
There's something about, even with a billion people around you, the sound of the water, the sound of the fountain moving, just you can find, or at least I can find the calm in it. And of course, it's just breathtakingly beautiful anyway. But I think that Prede will probably always be my thing from, we grew up watching Roman Holiday. Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And that, it moves me. I don't know what it is on me in water. I cry for time of water.
Well, I'll throw this out here because I know you all talked about coming back with kids and all that. If you come back without kids, well, again, I cannot recommend too highly Harry's Bar, at the hotel Harry's Bar, just, less than half a block away from Trevi. There is a patio upstairs. It's not part of a restaurant. It's just a patio for all the guests that overlooks the fountain and the church next door. The food is amazing. The bed is just awesome. The shower is, oh my God. Now, it's not cheap, okay? But if you want to spend a few days in Rome as a special gift to yourself, that's the place to stay.
Well, I know that Bug is not here, but I think just to speak for Buzz, I know that they said when we were in the forum, yeah, that was their favorite. And I don't think they came into this like knowing what to look forward to.
Yep.
Really,
Yeah.
thing to kind of compare it to, but I think that the ruins and there was something just really mind blowing about being in the same spot as Julius Caesar, and I mean, we were right there. Yeah, it just blew us mind. So yeah, that was
It was pretty special. All right, so let's take Rome day by day real quick. So our first full day, we did a food tour. And I know what everybody's favorite part of the food tour was.
You don't know.
I think y'all all told me it's all the same.
No, that's hard.
And again, just for the people watching this video, I did 3 tours. So I did the food tour, I did the Vatican Museums with Sistine Chapel and St. Peter's tour, and I did the Coliseum tour with the Roman Forum. And I chose to do them all as a private tour. Now, they are more expensive, but trust me, if you're coming with a family, it is so much worth the effort to at least choose one that's a private tour for your family. So let's talk about the food tour. Before we get to the food tour, let's talk about the food before the food tour. Let's talk about the Jewish bakeries. So I have talked about this burnt cherry cheesecake. It's not really called that, but that's what my original food tour person called it. And I talked about it so much. Okay. Was it worth the hype?
Yes. Yes.
We'll step through it.
10 would do again.
Yeah. Yeah. I almost feel like sad that we did it on the same day as the food tour.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I just didn't know when we could fit it in.
But I love that we all shared it. That was a really smart relationship.
It was. Yeah, it was. Yes, it was.
I've never had anything like it.
No, either.
And I made cheese just for
You make a wonderful cheesecake.
cheesecake from scratch. My grandmother's recipe.
It's a Puerto Rican cheesecake.
Yes, it takes all day to make. It's very, very yummy. It's nothing. It's not anything like the cheesecake that we had there or the cheesecake that we had here in Rome. So
It was also life-changing if anybody needs that recipe.
glorious. But I loved the crust.
Yeah.
I loved the story behind why there was the crust on
Yeah.
the top and the bottom. I'll let you share that. But it was so smooth and so creamy and so
Light. It was just light and just like melted in your mouth at the same time. It was life-giving.
life-giving. I like that.
Yeah, I haven't actually used that, so that's good. It's not dumb. Yeah, so just before we go on, Zach, what about you, buddy?
It was the best cheesecake I've ever had. Like, was looking very forward. I mean, it shows a lot that we walked over there in the poured down rain to go eat this cheesesteak. So it was completely perfect.
They opened.
And this is the thing about being right here at the Pantheon. We were like 10 minutes from Trevi Fountain. We were 10 minutes from this Jewish bakery.
Yes.
We were 20 minutes from the Coliseum.
Oh, that's it.
We were 3 minutes from Piazza Navona,
Yes.
where the Basilica of St. Agnes and Agony was not open. So anyway,
But the point is that it's all walkable.
it's very walkable. Yes. Okay. So, and I found a recipe for the cheesecake I'm going to try myself. All right. So the food tour, we went through that area and across into Trastevere. Wonderful, wonderful tour guide. So favorite part of the tour?
Of the food tour?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll start with you.
I choose. Okay. Real. I'm cheating.
Okay.
Real food. It was the pasta.
Yeah.
Wherever that was called.
Very first stop.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's our second. It was the with the pecorino cheese. Oh my god. And then
And there will be B-roll over this, and it's the yellow.
yes, that
Yeah.
yes. And I love the gelato.
Yeah, the gelato was awesome.
That gelato was unlike anything I had ever had. That's for sure. It was pretty special.
Now, the gelato that we found on our own was pretty good, too.
I would also
Yeah.
one can make an argument for that as well. Okay. Porchetta. Sure.
Oh my god.
Would eat every day of my life.
Every day.
Yes.
We're all like trying to figure out how to get Zack to make it at home. That's all.
You too.
Zack is the cook. And if we ever get there, we'll have Dad do a video.
Porchetta was my favorite food. And one other thing that I was introduced to, like, was the espresso, the little bitty espresso.
I noticed you've had several of those.
Yeah, I have mine too.
Oh man.
I do like that. Like, I like coffee in the morning for the caffeine. And I'm like, well, why not just drink a little bit instead of drinking a whole cup? So,
Yeah.
and this morning, like, I put a little bit of sugar in it and mixed it up, and I did enjoy that.
It will wake you up.
It did.
Yeah.
I've always wondered what all these Italians are standing at the bar, like, bringing down that little bitty cup. But now I know. So,
Yeah.
that's my go-to now.
I will also say it will put you down because that man took a nap today. Next.
Yeah, but now that could have been the walk. I'm sure that espresso had worn off by the time we were done there. So if you were to recommend, would you recommend that people coming to Rome that they take a food tour?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
With Lavia. She would
Yeah. So yeah, one of the and I swore I wasn't going to do this, but I did it anyway. Because in the tour that we chose, we could do 6 tastings or 10 tastings, and I chose the 10 tastings. And it was like, I try to warn everybody, pace yourself. Just because they give you this amount of food doesn't mean you have to eat it. We ate all of the pasta. Very first stop, we were like, oh my God, I can't stop eating. And then by the time we were done, which was the porchetta, that was the last thing we did. I was like, I can't eat.
I know. I was not even hungry.
No.
I was not hungry, but you could not eat it.
No, but I had a piece, but I mean, there was this blade of it in front of us stacked up.
lot.
So, yeah. All right. So the next day we went to the Vatican Museums, and let's talk about it in 3 separate parts. Okay. So the museums themselves, impressions, favorite part.
That was. We even scratched the surface.
No.
That's
No.
the first of that.
And there were parts of the museums that are available in other tours that were not available in our tour. So
Okay.
you could choose a different tour and see different parts of the museum.
Oh, okay. I would love to just get lost in there.
Yeah.
Just get lost. You just walk through it. I like it when we started the first kind of places that we walked through or with all of the marble statues, and there were some that were huge, and then there were like random, like there was a big toe. That was it. It was just a toe. So that was a beautifully manicured.
Yeah.
Really nice. Really nice. So it was just really random, but yeah, I could get lost in there. I loved obviously the Raphael rooms. Yeah, the pot. I can see his little face. It looked yummy. That was fantastic. Before she even like pointed him out, I was like, oh, there he is. Hi. Yeah, and the stories behind Raphael and Michelangelo. That's why I love tours.
Yeah.
They can give you a little more insight into the people, more, yeah, and their relationship and their thoughts behind what they were doing, and just to see like their growth as artists
Yeah.
on the wall. Like I could see the growth
Yes.
from their first painting to the last was like, that was amazing. You're watching somebody's life.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, their growth, yeah, their ascension. I think for me that was kind of the craziest thing too, because Zack and I have been to the Vatican before, and we did a guided tour as well. But it's also like what I've appreciated is that you gain more knowledge because every tour is different, every tour guide's different.
True.
And for me, hearing and then seeing how the Belvedere torso
Yes.
impacted Michelangelo, and then how Michelangelo's work impacted Raphael, and seeing his last fresco and how he started to evolve and change his work. It's like if he had not died so young, could have, I mean, like, I don't know, they're probably in the same, they're both turtles, so they're brought on the same level anyway, but like could have super surpassed, because I mean you see his like change in his work day one to that last room, that one man in that last room, and I was like so much detail, mind blown. Yeah. Mind blown. Yeah.
Yeah, and Michelangelo had spent years studying cadavers
Ooh, interesting.
to learn how to sculpt the human body. So he had that going for him with his painting. Raphael just looked at his paintings and came up with that. Yeah.
It's amazing. He's crazy.
Yeah. Zack?
The Raphael rooms, especially, well, it would have been our third room we went into, which was the very first room that he painted, because he done so good that they wanted to paint the rest. But those are my favorite rooms. I do love the Sistine Chapel and Michelangelo's work, but something about those Raphael rooms, like, it just draws me into it. The story of each person, the Galileo, Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah.
But one thing about the Sistine Chapel that blows my mind is the ingenuity that went into it to build the scaffolding work. And
Yeah.
like they don't have aluminum scaffolds like they had sticks and logs. I don't know how they put it together. And they're almost 100 feet in the air. Like, and then they had to pull all that plaster up somehow. And then all the paint, like, nowadays we have stairs that go up scaffolding to use the restroom. I mean, they were up there all day.
Yeah.
Well, so like for those that don't know, so it's a curved ceiling.
Yeah.
And so the scaffolding he had built to precision at the same height along the curved ceiling that his canvas, he's laying down, looking at the ceiling as his arms stretch and the paintbrush along the entire curvature.
Same as
That's insane.
Yeah.
And having to lay plaster before that.
Yes.
That certain section before it dries, then lay another section and paint that before that dries. Like, I mean, it blows my mind.
Also, what was crazy to me, but made sense, like when you think about it, was his order in which he painted the ceiling.
Yeah.
I loved that.
That was so great. Tell me about it.
Okay. On this, obviously Michelangelo did the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, and what it was is the creation story. So start in the beginning, right, and then all the way to the end. Well, I love just as an artist, I just think it's beautiful. He started at the end with that was what he started with because that was his first time painting.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Which is crazy in and of itself.
Sure. Yeah.
So that he made sure that once he got to the end, which was really the beginning, that he was. I'm not gonna cuss on your channel. He was awesome. He was the mess. He was awesome.
Well, and to clarify that, where he started was farthest away from the altar.
Yeah.
So that as he got closer to the altar where the Pope would be,
Just where,
yeah, then his best work would be there.
Yes.
Because he spent, what they say, 4.5 years
I believe so.
painting the ceiling. That's 4.5 years of practice.
4.5 years.
Yeah.
And his last one only took him a day.
Took him a day.
Took him a sec. But like, okay, so again, to people who don't know, like that's insanity is that you pick somebody who is only a sculptor,
Yeah.
who doesn't paint, to do the centerpiece of the Pope's inner chapel.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then like he bangs it like
Yeah.
it's the most important work.
And one of the things they pointed out that we didn't get to see next time we come on a family trip, Michelangelo was sculpting the burial site for the Pope.
Mm-hmm.
And he sculpted Moses, which is just a phenomenal sculpture. And somewhere along the line, the Pope was like, I've lost interest in that. I don't do that anymore, you know. And Michelangelo's like, well, okay, pay me for what I've done. Well, as soon as you finish the Sistine Chapel, I'll paint you.
Well, Michelangelo yes, Mike did turn him down to paint because he said he was not a painter, he was a sculptor.
Yeah.
And that's when the Pope conveniently
Yeah.
interest in his own tomb.
Yeah.
No Pope is losing interest in her.
No.
Which forced his hand, which was genius.
He manipulated that situation.
Yeah, and this is my fourth time through the Vatican Museums, I think. Of course, I'm 75 years old, so I could be wrong about that.
No, you're old not by now.
And I've taken a tour every time, but I have to say this was probably the most informative tour
I agree.
that I've taken, with all of the backstory of things going on, and especially with the Sistine Chapel and how it was the political machinations that took place in what is supposed to be such a religious experience, you know. Okay, now Zach's already mentioned the Pietà in St. Peter's. That is obviously my favorite place to just stand, and while y'all were walking around after I'd sat down for a little while, I just went back over there and looked at it again. I mean, it's just amazing. And it is one of those things, and she mentioned this in the tour, it was not typical for sculptors to sign their work during those times. And he was 23 when he created one of the most visually stunning sculpture masterpieces ever. And other sculptors were saying there's no way it could be him. So he went in and carved his name into the statue, and later regretted doing it because it was a matter of pride for him. But it's the only thing he's ever signed as far as the sculpture goes. I've seen the David in Florence. The David is phenomenal. I've seen the Moses. The Moses is phenomenal. I've seen Christ the Redeemer in St. Mary over Minerva, which was not available on this trip. Another disappointment. Is phenomenal, but nothing compares to that just soft, feminine feeling of La Pietà, where Mary is holding the dead body of Jesus. It's just phenomenal. So thoughts about the St. Peter's Basilica?
Just like a jaw drop everywhere you turn. It's like you thought you saw churches and then you saw this.
That was mind-blowing. And everywhere you turn, you thought it was a painting, but no.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they look just like paintings.
These hit me. Like, I don't think I realized that from the first time we went in either. Like, okay, so when you go in, apparently there's nothing in this basilica that is a fresco, so therefore not painted in any way. Everything you see, gigantic, huge, beautiful pictures that you think are paintings, and when you get up close, they're little itty tile work, mosaics, that you would never have a clue unless someone said that to you,
Yeah.
There is a catch as a lionish.
Right. Yeah. And one of you asked me about why did they do that, and it dawned on me later they may have done that so it never fades.
Okay,
It always, it's always beautiful.
yeah, that would make
The Sistine Chapel, they're having to restore it now because it was fading. We didn't get to see the Judgment Day wall because they had it kind of sealed off while they're restoring it. So if you come next year, you're going to see a very different Judgment Day wall than I've seen in the past. And I'm sure it will be just gorgeous. But in St. Peter's, everything is a mosaic. So it always, and what was interesting to me that she pointed out was in the basement, they have samples of every single tile.
that was
Yeah.
impressive.
So if one ever comes out or gets broken, they have a replacement.
Well, she even described it as far as like, if there's an earthquake or something, and like pieces fall, and I'm like, how much of this do you have to have in your basement?
In order to
Because just the is it a rotunda? I don't know, the circular part of the dome.
Yeah.
There's so much gold in that, and I'm like, how much do y'all have down there?
It's a lot.
She also said that it's not as cool down there, apparently, as in Angels and Demons.
Yes. Yeah.
Sad to me. Why?
Yeah.
Why to bring that back up?
Sorry.
Yeah, so evidently the movie Angels and Demons, which honestly I've never seen, they spend some time in the archives. Is that what they call it? The archives.
The Vatican Archive.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be some super duper modern day kind of looking thing. And the tour guide said, "I've been there. It doesn't look anything like that."
It's very clean, but it's very old.
Yeah.
Things very old. You've, sir.
No.
I've never cared for the Dan Brown stuff. Sorry.
Did you expect to what?
Okay, so I will say. Oh, sorry. Did you say something about that? No, because you switch for a second. When we walked in, just as a comparison, so we were talking about in Assisi that we loved San Damiano.
Yes. Yeah.
And I will say that our first place that we visited was the Basilica of St. Francis. And so that's the first, church or basilica that we visited in Italy. When we first walked in there, I immediately started crying. It was so beautiful.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And it was so different.
Yes.
So it's very, like, you walk into St. Peter's and it's like gold everywhere, marble, and I mean,
It's very ornate.
it is beautiful and ornate. This, yes, inside joke. But the Basilica of St. Francis is obviously much more ornate than San Damiano, but it was so different. It was very what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. It was colorful, but it was like geometric. It wasn't flashy like we think of.
So everything was painted.
Yes.
Geometrically. All the arches, instead of being like sculpted marble, were the decorations were definitely from a painted point of view. And I will say, I think that the lower portion of the Basilica of St. Francis is probably my favorite.
Yeah.
Because again, I am a very simple person in nature, but it gives enough beauty, in its simplicity. And then I also appreciated, since we're going to talk about it, the wall that not compares, but contrasts the life of Jesus to the life of St. Francis, and how St. Francis attempted to follow, the life of Jesus and his giving and his suffering and
Selflessness.
yes. Yeah. I think for me, in trying to learn about St. Francis through my own eyes, not just my dad's eyes, that was very telling for me. I wish I could have spent more time there, because I would have stayed there for a while.
Yeah, and that's what I was hoping we would see. Yeah. Okay, so last day, Coliseum. And we'll cover the forum maybe just in the process of talking about the Coliseum. It's been 15, 16 years maybe since I visited the Coliseum. I remember nothing about it whatsoever. And I'm not really sure that the tour that we took with the STEM Academy gave us the kind of detail that, again, the private tour where we have the undivided attention of the tour guide. I'm not sure that it gave us the kind of detail. So it was interesting. I will let you all speak to this rather than me, but it was interesting to learn that the movie Gladiator is relatively nothing.
Some things they got right.
A few things, yes. But, so anyway, speak to that.
I was really excited to go to the Coliseum, but I didn't really know what to expect.
Yeah.
I other than the Gladiator and like some pictures I've seen online, you can't do it justice until you're actually in there. And I loved our guide so much. She's a middle school teacher. And so much passion. She loves teaching. I know, and Dad asked her at one point, like, do you get tired or bored of these tours? And she was like,
No, like, no. It's history.
she loved it.
But she does get bored with teaching her kids.
We do. But that her enthusiasm is contagious. So I love that she constantly invited us to like use our imagination, because all you see really are the bricks, which is like the underbelly of this astounding for the day that it was built in, piece of architecture, but nobody there in the day would have seen that the brick. Everything was marble, everything.
Yes.
And so I love being in those spaces. That's my most favorite thing about visiting places like this is just pretending like I was really there. And like, I wanted she invited us to imagine all of the white marble and all of the people that were so excited to go in. And, I wouldn't have been as excited as them, hopefully, to see some of the things. So, but I loved like learning the history of how it came about and how it was only once a month and it was free for everybody. And, the different social classes, where they sat in the arena. The fact that arena means sand. So every time you go to a football match, you're going to the sand. Woo! That was the best. I loved it. Yeah, there's so much about the Coliseum that I could talk about. I'd probably just
You learned some new vocabulary.
we did.
Yeah.
We did. Or the origins of the words that we use today.
Zach, you've been quiet for a long time, buddy. Tell me about the Coliseum.
It's breathtaking. Like when our tour guide told us just before we started to actually walk into the arena, she'd talk to us for a little bit. We'd take like 10 steps. You think you're going in there, she'd talk to us some more. She's like, imagine. So I'm imagining in my mind that once you actually walk through there, when everything's behind you and in front of you, it's so breathtaking to know the history that went on in there. And another thing, the ingenuity that went into building that thing. I mean, to know that they built that to the 8 years.
8 years.
I mean, it's just that's mind blowing. Build that by hand, no heavy equipment, no machinery. Yeah.
Backs of Jewish slaves.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is sad, but
Mhm.
it's breathtaking. As soon as you walk in there, it just know what actually went on in there. Enjoyed it.
Speak to what actually went on in the sand. The arena.
In the arena. Okay, so in the arena, all right, so you're talking like what, like a 6-hour event.
Yeah. 10 to 4.
Okay, so you're probably gonna see a lot of exotic animals that they brought over from Africa. Did they fight those animals? Elefantes. And there's a like we've been taught, and they can beat the animal. No, they don't. Not they did. Oh, there was
Yes, they did.
not the giraffes. They didn't.
No, tigers and bears.
Yeah, tigers and bears.
All I heard was they didn't fight the animals. They did.
That's true. There were ostriches. Yeah, they enjoyed because they were running around because honestly they were scared people out. Yeah, to be expected. All right, so that went on, and what I heard, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but what I heard,
You're right.
was, never, baby, thank you. He loves me. Criminals
Yeah.
of the empire would be assassinated in the arena before lunch.
Yeah. Obviously.
And then they break for lunch.
Then we'd break your lunch.
Yeah.
And then we'd come back and the main event would start and we'd get into the gladiators. But apparently the gladiators is really only because like one gladiator had a sword that was called Gladius.
Yes.
And he was like the main man. I don't remember his actual name, but the sword was called Gladius, and therefore we have gladiators. Okay, so in the movie, they fight to the death, right? Gladiators fight to the death.
Yeah.
In real life, they don't, because you don't want to, get rid of all of your star people.
Yeah, your talent.
So they have fights and there's referees. That was new to me.
Yeah.
I was like, how do you win if you don't fight to the death?
Yeah.
referees that will decide who wins the match. Now, there is a potential for a gladiator to die in the arena, in the sand, if he's performing poorly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't that an odd show? Okay, so in the movie The Gladiator, you've got this, right? And at the end, it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down. That's not the thing. God, I know that really did funny. In real life, if the crowd, okay, so in theory, the mob, which is the 70 to 80,000 people that are in the arena watching the show, if they think that a gladiator is performing poorly and they start chanting "Jubila," then the emperor will hold out his thumb, which basically means jugula, jugular, and that gladiator will be assassinated.
Yes.
That was very different from the movie to me.
Yeah. And I mean, there was so much that I picked up here that I didn't remember from the first time I went to the Coliseum. But to only have this once a month in the movie, it kind of feels like they just do this like all the time. It's only once a month, and the gladiators were by and large slaves that they had conquered other lands and brought in. And so if they wound up winning 10 times
In a year.
they could be freed. Do you know how hard that would be?
Really.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure the referees are not like, let's let you win to
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. So yeah, it begs the question: is this MMA or is this WWE?
From WWE.
It did. Didn't it?
Well,
Yeah.
When she was explaining it,
Yeah.
especially like how they had like 20 different lifts that the gladiators were, 22. Oh, okay, sorry. That the gladiators would come out of from underground, except for the last two, the final two gladiators of the match, which were the top dogs. And I'm just imagining how they come out like the WWE down the ramp. And they literally did go down the ramp and like come out of this side door, maybe like one on each side. And then I was like, for real?
It's a whole show, baby.
Yeah, and it was really interesting to me, when we went into the Coliseum, we were coming in where those two gladiators would walk in. And the Coliseum, you think from the outside the Coliseum is round, and it is, but the arena is oval. And so they come in from one end, like an end zone in a football game, and in midfield of the 50-yard line is the emperor over here. And it was just trying to picture the theatrics of it all, because this is, I mean, she did point out, and I knew this already, but she did point out that the emperors felt like if they fed their people and they kept them entertained, which was what the Colosseum was for, that they would not revolt.
Correct.
And, that worked for a long time. It's interesting because there are other amphitheaters. One of the things that we saw when we were on the food tour was that curved wall of buildings where there was another amphitheater, or another theater at least, which was not for gladiators, but for acting and that kind of thing. And then, there are amphitheaters the Romans built in the UK and other countries because they were carrying on this tradition of keeping people entertained, much like we do today. All right, so we've covered basically everything we've done this week.
Well,
Pretty much.
overarching.
Yeah.
Little moments.
Yeah.
Between all.
Yeah. Is there anything that sticks out to you we haven't talked about?
There's probably several for me. I don't know that we want to get very political on the YouTube channel. So I will go with one of the things that struck me most when Zach and I went through the Jewish ghetto the first time, and I was thankful that we had a moment to point out to Brittany as well, was when you walk through the Jewish ghetto, there are gold plaques in the cobblestone, in remembrance of those, and they have names of those that died at the hands of the Gestapo during World War II, whether that would be by assassination at the time or taken to concentration camps such as Auschwitz, and died in concentration camps. And they are scattered all throughout the Jewish ghetto.
Yeah.
And World War II speaks to me as a history piece. Anyway, I choose to watch a lot of things about it. So for me, that's a very special and intimate moment. So I was thankful that as we were leaving, because we didn't travel all around the Jewish ghetto on this particular trip, but as we were leaving, we were able to find some and share that piece of history with my sister.
Yeah, and it was, and I thought about that as we went to the monument for the king, the wedding cake building, because it was built by Mussolini,
I didn't realize that.
I didn't either, honestly.
who was in charge during World War II, who was responsible for these deaths that you're talking about. It, you have this lasting monument here that is just breathtakingly gorgeous and has about 1 billion steps just to get up to the elevator. And this is the same guy that was following Hitler and
Yeah, it's like in the same breath. It's breathtaking and it's obscene
yeah,
at the same time.
yeah.
A lot of
Knowing there's
stopping at a time here throughout this whole and the churches and everything.
Yeah.
Breathtaking and obscene. That's really,
Yeah.
that's a good.
Well, and it is to honor King, whatever his name is.
Emmanuel.
Yeah, Victor Emmanuel, who was responsible for creating Italy, basically.
Uniting the nations.
Yeah, and from that perspective, I guess it's a little different way to look at it rather than being built by Mussolini. Yeah. It was kind of humorous to me as we were coming in to the city from the train station by taxi. And our taxi guy was like, "That's the building Mussolini gave his speech from. That's the building that somebody else gave their speech." I'm like,
That's Napoleon Paris. Was on Main Street. This trip has been like beautiful and hard because we grew up spending our very formative years in Europe, got to experience a lot of Europe in those years. And so we, I think, gained a love of history like a lot of people don't get to. And so, I eat this stuff up like such an experience. And like to what you were saying, it's such beauty everywhere. And I appreciate like the art, the artistry, the genius everywhere I look. And I also hold the hard with it, the violence.
yeah,
that came along with it. Being right there, I'm an empath, so I I take those things in, and I hold it all together. So
It's been an emotional trip for me.
and then personally, and I think I can speak for Elise as well. I think yeah, I'm gonna give it a shot. Getting to sing with our dad.
Oh,
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Getting to sing with our dad was really special. And I hope that everybody enjoys it. But you enjoyed it as much as we did.
Also did it justice.
I thought so too. But even if we didn't, like just being in the moment, my when we were down at San Damiano, that was just so special. That was my favorite one. I think we did the best job that we ever did there. Right at the end, we got
but I
it.
am also thankful that that's where it ended. You know,
It was fitting.
yeah.
Well, we're kind of like Michelangelo. We just kept getting a little closer as we went along.
And Raphael to that point. Yeah. And there's needed some time to grow.
Zach, any final thoughts, buddy?
So I'm just so grateful to be up on this to be this trip.
Yeah, you weren't supposed to be here.
I was not supposed to.
Thank you, baby.
So grateful for the invite. Spend it with y'all, and yeah, I look forward to many more trips to Rome in our future, for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, if I could, I'd come back every year. You know, and I have people that ask me, including my mom. Hi, mom. You know, do you not get tired of going there? No, not really, because I mean, even now, there's so much I wished we could have done, but we didn't get there. We didn't get to the Basilica of St. Mary Major, one of my favorite places. We didn't get to see St. Agnes, which is by far my favorite place. You know, we didn't get to the Basilica of St. John Lateran. There's so many things we didn't get to see that if we'd spent the whole week here in Rome, we would have seen more. But the Assisi part was the most important part for me because that's where I really wanted to share my heart. And then down here, it was just kind of, you know, icing on the cake. And to be honest, I didn't have any intention of going to the Coliseum. You asked about it, and I was like, okay, we'll add it. Because, you know, I'd seen it, they'd seen it. I didn't think it was that big of a deal where Rome is concerned, but it turned out to be a really spectacular day. So I'm glad we went. All right. Well, thank you for indulging me. We've gone, you know, about an hour and 15 minutes here. Hopefully, I'll be able to condense that down just a little bit, and share with the world a little bit about what we've experienced. So, thank you all for being here with me.
I'll give you up here.